The late afternoon sun cast long, somber shadows across the expansive, minimalist office of Yu Yanchen, president of the globally renowned Dragon Rise Group. His presence, much like the room itself, exuded an aura of controlled power and unyielding precision. Yet, for 6 years, an undercurrent of something less quantifiable had disturbed the usually placid surface of his thoughts. It wasn't the relentless demands of his empire, nor the strategic skirmishes with corporate rivals. It was the lingering, almost spectral memory of a night shrouded in forced oblivion and the persistent, frustrating absence of a Patek Philippe wristwatch. More than an object of immense value, it was his father's final bequest, an emblem of the Yu family legacy, a silent testament to his rightful place as successor. "Young master," he'd recently reiterated to his ever-efficient assistant Joe, his voice a low, resonant hum that brooked no argument. "That wristwatch my father gave it to me on his deathbed. It symbolizes the successor of Dragon Rise Group. Spread the order. Find the woman wearing that watch. She saved my life." A beat of silence. Then, with a tone that hinted at an uncharacteristic vulnerability, almost a private decree, he'd added, "She is also my future wife." The declaration hung in the air, an unshakable resolve. The search was not merely for a piece of jewelry, but for a phantom, a debt owed, and perhaps a future he had unilaterally decided upon. For Yinshag, the intervening 6 years had been a relentless exercise in fortitude. Once a bright law student with dreams as clearly defined as case precedents, her life had been violently rerouted by that same chaotic night. Now a practicing lawyer, her sharp intellect and quiet dignity were her shield and sword in a world that rarely played fair. That night had left her with a secret she guarded fiercely, a daughter named Tian Tian, a constant, bittersweet reminder of an encounter she desperately tried to erase from her consciousness. The shrill summons of her mobile phone shattered the fragile peace of her small, meticulously kept apartment. The caller ID flashed Yin Chi-Chi, her older sister. A familiar weariness settled upon Shage even before she answered. "Sichi? What's happened now?" Shage's voice was calm, a stark contrast to the histrionics that invariably followed. "Shage, oh Shage, it's Yangfan. He's gambled everything away again." Chi-Chi's voice was a torrent of panicked sobs and accusations. "The loan sharks. They're after me, Shage. They're threatening me. I'm pregnant. I'm so helpless. He'll kill me if they don't. Cece, please, you have to help me. Can you lend me some money? I need to hide somewhere. I won't survive this." Shage closed her eyes, the practiced litany of woe washing over her. It was a cycle she knew too well. "Don't panic, sis," she said, her tone betraying none of the exhaustion she felt. She mentally calculated her meager savings. "My card has 200. 0. Take it. Find a safe place." 200,000? Chi-Chi's wail escalated, a carefully calibrated performance of despair. "But I need money for the childbirth, too. That's not nearly enough." Then, as if a new, more profitable idea had struck her, Chi-Chi's tone shifted subtly. "Shage, that watch you have. The man's watch. It looks expensive. This watch must be valuable. Selling it should cover all the costs, and then some." A sharp pang shot through Shaj. The watch, the heavy, masculine timepiece she had salvaged from that night, kept hidden like a dangerous, precious secret. It was the sole, tangible link to Tian Tian's father, a man whose features were a blur in her memory, a man she had convinced herself she had no desire to find. Parting with it felt like severing the last, fragile thread to an identity Tian Tian might one day seek. Yet, Chi-Chi was pregnant, her voice laced with a desperation Shage, despite everything, couldn't entirely ignore. "That one, mate's boss quick horn this watch for me." Chi-Chi's voice, muffled but distinct through the phone, was already at a pawn shop, eager and decisive. Shage's shoulders slumped. It was done. The watch, and whatever sliver of a past it represented was gone, sacrificed on the altar of her sister's latest crisis. The bitterness of the decision was a familiar taste. Yu Yanchen's directives were executed with the swift, unerring precision that characterized all his endeavors. Within days, Assistant Joe stood before him, a meticulously prepared report in hand. "Mr. Yu, we've located the watch. It was pawned at a downtown establishment and subsequently retrieved by our team. The vehicle involved has also been repaired as per your instructions." Yanshin's expression remained impassive, his gaze fixed on some distant point beyond the cityscape visible through his panoramic office window. The car was irrelevant. The watch, now secured, was merely a means to an end. It was the woman who mattered. The woman whose scent, a clean, almost ethereal fragrance he couldn't quite place but also couldn't forget, had been a fleeting anchor in the drug-induced chaos of that night at the Starlight Hotel. The Starlight Hotel. Even the name, 6 years later, could evoke a faint, almost imperceptible tightening in his chest, a flicker of the vulnerability he so rarely allowed himself. He'd been drugged, a crude and desperate move by a business rival. He remembered flashes, a disorienting heat, a crushing vulnerability, and then a cool hand, a calming presence, that elusive scent. Now, Yin Chi-Chi stood before him in the opulent reception area of the hotel where he'd summoned her, a picture of feigned innocence and carefully curated distress. The air around her was thick, with a cheap, overly sweet perfume that grated on Yanshin's senses. It was jarringly, definitively not the scent he remembered. "The woman at the Starlight Hotel last night. Was it you?" Yanshin's voice was low, devoid of warmth. His eyes, the color of polished jet, narrowed, dissecting her every micro-expression. One of his security personnel, sensing the simmering tension, interjected smoothly. "Please calm down. This is the president of Dragon Rise Group, Mr. Yu Yanshen." Another added, for Chi-Chi's benefit, "Mr. Yu was drugged last night. You spent the night with him. Our Mr. Yu came personally to repay you." Yin Chi-Chi, whose mind worked with the swift, amoral calculation of a seasoned opportunist, saw not a man seeking answers, but a golden ticket. Her eyes, wide with a performance of startled modesty, met his. "It's me," she breathed, a calculated tremor in her voice. "Yes, I was that woman last night. To save you. I went through so much." Yanshin's mind, a finely tuned instrument for detecting fraud and subterfuge in billion-dollar negotiations, registered the lie almost instantly. Her scent is different from last night's. The woman from that night had been a whisper of clean linen and something indefinably natural. This Chi-Chi was an assault of artificiality. But the watch, the undeniable proof, had been traced through her transaction at the pawn shop. There were layers here, a calculated deception he needed to peel back. He would play this game, for now. "Excuse me," he said, his tone unreadable, a curt dismissal. He needed time to think, to strategize. This was not the straightforward resolution he had anticipated. Later that day, Yin Shage received a brief, callous call from her sister. "Hey, I'm going abroad to avoid debt. Don't contact me again." Chi-Chi's voice was sharp, devoid of gratitude, already severing ties. The line went dead, leaving Shage with a familiar ache of betrayal and a growing unease. Chi-Chi hadn't just taken her money and the watch. She had, Shage suspected with a sinking heart, stolen something far more profound, an identity, a connection, however tenuous, to Tiantian's unknown father. The weight of this new deception settled heavily upon her. The passage of 6 years had transformed Yin Shage. The idealistic law student had been forged into a pragmatic, resilient attorney and, more importantly, a fiercely protective mother. Tiantian, her daughter, was a whirlwind of bright curiosity and infectious laughter, now on the cusp of her 6th birthday. She was the sun around which Shage's world revolved, a daily, living testament to that one night of blurred memories and profound consequences. And Tian Tian carried a secret of her own, etched onto her delicate skin, a unique, star-shaped birthmark just below her collarbone, a mark Shage knew, with an instinct that chilled her, was not a legacy from the Yin family. "Mommy, I don't want to wear these clothes anymore," Tian Tian announced one morning, her small brow furrowed with a child's earnest concern. "I don't like people seeing my birthmark." Shage knelt, her voice a soft reassurance. "Sweetheart, this birthmark is a special gift from heaven. It's beautiful. Your daddy has one too." It was a comforting fiction, a story spun from necessity to bridge the chasm of Tian Tian's unknown paternity. "Then where's my daddy?" The question, always delivered with an innocent, unwavering gaze, was a familiar pang in Shage's heart. I can't tell you, sweetie," Shage would reply, the practiced words still feeling like a betrayal. "Your father and we had you by accident. I don't even know what he looks like." It was a shield, protecting Tian Tian from a truth too complex, and perhaps protecting Shage from her own unresolved fears. The gears of fate, however, have a way of grinding forward, often set in motion by the most innocuous of events. One sweltering afternoon, as Shage was concluding a business call, she told Tian Tian, "Mommy needs to take this call. The car I called is almost here. It's black. Wait for me right here, okay?" Tian Tian, ever observant and brimming with an almost preternatural confidence, spotted a gleaming black limousine idling by the curb. Assuming it was their arranged transport, she marched towards it with purpose. The tinted window glided down, revealing Yu Yanshan, his expression coolly remote as he glanced at the approaching child. "Hello, the black car is Mommy's ride," Tian Tian announced, her voice clear and bright. Yanshan's gaze, accustomed to dissecting balance sheets and hostile takeovers, lingered on the child. There was an unexpected pull, a faint, almost imperceptible stirring within him. "Hey, mister, you're so handsome," Tian Tian declared, her head tilted in appraisal. "Just like the dad I always imagine." A muscle tightened in Yanshan's jaw. The child's innocent words struck an odd chord. "I'm not your dad," he stated, his voice a fraction less steady than usual. "Fate brought us together," Tian Tian chirped, undaunted by his reserve. "You're so handsome. Want to be my daddy? My mom can handle anything. Marrying her is a steal." Just then, Shage, her call abruptly ended, hurried over, her face paling as she registered the scene. Her daughter, her precious Tian Tian, engaged in an animated conversation with the formidable CEO of Dragon Rise Group. The air crackled with unspoken tension. "Tian Tian, what are you doing? This isn't our ride. Get out, quickly." Shage's voice was sharper than she intended, a blend of maternal panic and professional mortification. Yanshan's gaze shifted from the child, now looking slightly chastened, to the woman. There it was again, that scent. Faint, almost imperceptible, yet undeniably the same one that had clung to his memory for 6 long years. It was clean, like spring rain, so different from the cloying perfume Yin Chi favored. "Control your kid better," he said, his voice cool and clipped, his CEO mask firmly in place, though his mind was racing. "Don't yell at my mom!" Tian Tian shot back, her small hands on her hips, a miniature defender. Shage intervened swiftly, pulling Tian Tian back. "Tian Tian, this gentleman is right. Mommy didn't watch you properly. Apologize now." Then to Yanshan, "I'm so sorry, sir. She didn't mean any harm." "She knows how to parent." "A decent mother," Yanshan observed, his eyes briefly meeting Shage's, a flicker of something unreadable in their depths. "It's fine." As Shage and Tian Tian retreated, Yanshan's gaze remained fixed on them. The child's bold pronouncements, her startling resemblance to whom? And the mother's scent, an olfactory echo from a past he was obsessively trying to reconstruct. He was a man of cold, hard facts, of verifiable data. Yet, an irrational thought, insidious and persistent, took root. Could this be my child? The notion was preposterous, a flight of fancy. But the convergence of the lost watch, the memory of the woman from the starlight, and now this child, this scent. It was a pattern too compelling for even his rigorously logical mind to dismiss outright. The investigation he had initiated 6 years ago had just taken an unforeseen and far more personal turn. The opulent Yu Villa, a fortress of minimalist luxury and unspoken rules, had become a gilded cage for Yu Yanchen. 6 years had passed since Yin Chi-Chi, armed with a recovered Patek Philippe and a fabricated tale of heroism, had insinuated herself into his life, presenting a son, Shao Guo, Shao, as the fruit of their supposed night together. Yanchen, a man whose decisions shaped global markets, found himself navigating a domestic charade that grew more insufferable by the day. "Yanchen, I got you a new belt," Kichi cooed one morning, her voice dripping with an artificial sweetness that set his teeth on edge. "Since you're metal sensitive, I specially ordered a pure gold buckle. Let me put it on for you." Her touch was tentative, almost desperate, a stark contrast to the cool, almost clinical way he endured her proximity. For 6 years, she had played the part of his savior, the mother of his presumed heir, yet an impassable gulf remained between them. "6 years! You've never touched me," she'd once whispered, a hint of genuine desperation in her voice. "Don't you feel anything for me at all? Just obligation between us, no affection?" He had offered no reply then, and offered none now, his silence a more potent rebuff than any harsh word. His gaze often fell on Shao Guo. The boy was a miniature tyrant, his demands incessant, his tantrums legendary among the household staff who whispered about Manager Lu's sudden resignation, followed by a string of maids who couldn't last a week. "My mom said I have the Yu family birthmark. I'm the Yu family heir," Shao Guo would shriek, brandishing a poorly drawn mark on his arm that Chi-Chi had, in a moment of foolish desperation, attempted to create with a marker. "These servants are all my slaves. I can play however I want." Yanchen watched one afternoon as Shao Guo, in a fit of pique, tormented a young maid, his laughter sharp and cruel. "Enough! What are you doing?" Yanchen's voice cut through the air, cold and sharp as a shard of ice. Chi-Chi rushed to her son's side. "Yanchen, he's just a kid, don't hit him." "Apologize," Yanchen commanded, his eyes fixed on the defiant boy. "This is how you raise kids?" He later bit out at Chi-Chi, the carefully constructed artifice of their relationship fraying. "I never said that," he misunderstood. Chi-Chi stammered, but Yanchen saw the lie in her eyes. He knew Chi-Chi was actively spoiling Shao Guo, perhaps in a misguided attempt to solidify their position. The Yu family birthmark she'd ineptly tried to forge on the boy was fading, a constant reminder of her precarious hold. Yin Chi-Chi's ruining the child's upbringing, he thought. A cold anger settling in, need custody ASAP. Not just custody of this boy he increasingly doubted was his, but clarity. The entire situation felt like a poorly written play, and he was growing tired of his role. "Find the best custody lawyer in the city," he instructed Assistant Joe. "Someone with a flawless track record." "All set, sir. Lawyer Yin Shage. 100% custody case success rate. We can arrange a meeting today," Joe replied promptly. The name Yin Shag resonated faintly, like a half-forgotten melody. Where had he heard it before? Yin Shage navigated the corridors of her current law firm with a quiet determination that often belied the storm of anxieties within. Raising Tian Tian single-handedly while building a career was a constant juggling act. Her competence, however, had not gone unnoticed, attracting not only clients, but also the unwelcome attention of her lecherous supervisor, Mr. Liu. "Attorney Yin, you've handled recent cases exceptionally well. Clients have given positive feedback?" Liu began, his smile, unctuous. I have some cases here. I just don't know if Lawyer Yin is willing to take on this case. Perhaps over dinner? His hand strayed towards hers. Shage recoiled subtly. Supervisor, as a lawyer, you should be well aware of sexual harassment laws, she stated, her voice firm despite the tremor of anger she felt. Liu's face hardened. Harassment? You're well aware how tough harassment cases are. No cameras here. Got any proof? He lunged, grabbing her arm. Where are you running? Let me go! Suddenly, the door to Liu's office swung open with force. Yu Yanchen stood framed in the doorway, his presence radiating an almost palpable chill. His eyes, cold and assessing, took in the scene in an instant. Dare to touch my people. Yanchen's voice was deceptively soft, yet it carried an unmistakable threat. Liu stumbled back, his face ashen. Mr. Yu, my mistake, Mr. Yu. I didn't know she's yours. If I'd known, I'd never dare. Get lost, Yanchen said, the two words a pronouncement of doom. Liu scrambled out, babbling apologies. Yanchen turned to Shage. Her composure, though slightly ruffled, was admirable. He had observed her briefly, seen her professionalism. Thanks for earlier, Shage said, regaining her poise. Your firm's toxic, Yanchen stated, a matter-of-fact observation. Consider joining Dragon Rise Group. Shage's eyes widened. Dragon Rise Group, a global top 100 company, a titan of industry. This isn't some sort of scam, is it? She asked, her legal mind immediately assessing the improbable offer. We came specifically for you, Yanchen continued, his gaze direct. You're the best at custody cases. I have one. Custody. The words sent a shiver down Shage's spine. Mr. Yu, you're married? She ventured, then mentally chided herself for the unprofessional curiosity. The rumors of his savior, wife, and child were well known. To cut off the mother to keep the child? Rich CEOs are truly disgusting, she thought, a flash of judgment crossing her mind. Any concerns? He pressed. What's the salary? Shage asked, forcing a practical tone. Name your price. She took a breath. 50,000 a month. Yanchen didn't blink. 10 million a year. The sum was staggering. It would secure Tiantian's future, lift the constant financial pressure. Don't worry, Shage said, her professional demeanor snapping back into place. I'll get your child back for you. Start at Dragon Rise tomorrow, Yanchen concluded, turning to leave. As he walked away, Shag replayed the encounter. Yu Yanchen. He was as formidable and inscrutable as his reputation suggested. But there was something else. A fleeting intensity in his eyes when he'd looked at her. A resonance in his voice that she couldn't quite place. She shook her head, dismissing it. This was a job, a high-stakes, high-reward opportunity. Her personal feelings, or her vague sense of unease, had no place in it. Yin Shage's first day at Dragon Rise Group was a blur of introductions and immaculately designed office spaces. She had left Tiantian with a trusted sitter, but a call came through. The sitter had an emergency. Left with no choice, and emboldened by Yanchen's earlier comment about the company supporting working parents, Shage brought Tiantian to the office, instructing her to be on her best behavior. Okay, sweetie, wait here for a moment. Mommy needs to talk to the CEO about work. Be polite to these ladies and gentlemen here, Shage whispered, settling Tiantian in a quiet corner of the legal department. Okay. Tiantian chirped, her eyes wide with the novelty of the bustling corporate environment. It wasn't long before Manager Zhu, a mid-level executive with an inflated sense of self-importance, noticed the child. Who brought this kid into the company? He boomed. Tiantian, unintimidated, stood and introduced herself politely. Hello, sir. My name is Yin Tiantian. My mother is Yin Shage, today's new hire. On her first day, she brought a child to work? Zhu scoffed. Let me make this clear. Everyone at this company must contribute value. How can you contribute? Go mop the floors. He then cruelly ordered the child to fetch him water at precisely 36.5 degrees. Shage returned to find Tian Tian tearfully, trying to manage a cup of water that was too cold. Just as she was about to confront Zhu, Yu Yanshen appeared. Care to explain, Manager Zhu? Yanshen's voice was deceptively calm. Zhu, flustered, tried to justify his actions, stating company policy. I approved Attorney Yin's childcare arrangement, Yanshen stated, his gaze withering. Our company values people first. You violated our principles by bullying others. You're penalized. Since Manager Zhu assigned cleaning duties, he'll handle all company sanitation and fetch water for Attorney Yin from now on. He then made an announcement. Dragon Rise supported working parents, and for the upcoming Children's Day, they would host a family carnival. The family carnival was a lavish affair. Yin Chi-Chi, ever the opportunist, was there with Xiao Guo, determined to use the event to pressure Yanshen into publicly acknowledging her and her son. Yanshen, it's family day today. All staff are here. Shouldn't we finally announce mine and Xiao's status? She wheedled. We'll discuss it later, Yanshen replied, his tone dismissive. Shage, navigating the crowd with Tian Tian, unexpectedly ran into Chi-Chi. Sis, what are you doing here? Chi-Chi hissed, her eyes darting nervously towards Yanshen. Auntie! Tian Tian exclaimed, running to Chi-Chi. Mommy talks about you every single day. Chi-Chi's smile was strained. Is this young Fan's child? She asked Shage under her breath, panic in her eyes. Shage must never find out I took her place. She then launched into a tirade, belittling Shage for being an unwed mother and trying to buy her silence with 1,000,000 yuan, severing ties. Ying Shi-Chi, how can you measure everything with money? What about family bonds? Shage asked, heartbroken by her sister's callousness. Yanshen, observing the heated exchange from a distance, noted the raw emotion on Shage's face and Chi-Chi's evident agitation. His brow furrowed. Later, during a 3-legged race, Tian Tian, wanting a coveted Barbie doll prize, boldly approached Yanshen. Uncle Yu, could you pretend to be my dad for the game? I really want that, Barbie. Before Shage could apologize for her daughter's forwardness, Yanshen surprised everyone. Fine, I'll join you. As they awkwardly hopped towards the finish line, Yanshen was acutely aware of Shage beside him. Her scent, that same clean, unforgettable fragrance from 6 years ago, was more distinct now. It was a stark contrast to Chi-Chi's artificial perfume. He glanced at Shage, her face flushed with exertion, and then at Tian Tian, cheering them on. A strange, unfamiliar warmth spread through him. The Barbie doll, he suspected, was just an excuse. The child, with an almost unnerving intuition, seemed to be orchestrating something. After the race, Chi-Chi, simmering with jealousy, made a snide remark to Shage. So, Lawyer Yin wanted to be underneath, huh? How shameless. How could you say that? Shage retorted, but Chi-Chi twisted her words, feigning innocence. In the ensuing confusion, Chi-Chi accidentally bumped Shage, causing her to twist her ankle. Assistant Joe was quick with a first aid kit. Chi-Chi, ever the performer, lamented her own son's uselessness compared to their, Yanshen and Shage's, quick-acting child, Tian Tian. 6 years, and still can't win Yu Yanshen's favor, Chi-Chi seethed internally. I must find a way to eliminate them. Yanshen watched the entire exchange, his expression unreadable. Chi-Chi's clumsily veiled malice, Shage's quiet dignity even in pain, and Tian Tian's innocent attempts to mediate. It was all data. And the data was increasingly pointing towards a truth he had long suppressed, a truth that smelled remarkably like rain on fresh earth. The fragile peace Shage had managed to carve out for herself, and Tian Tian was shattered by a seemingly minor incident that resonated with chilling significance. Tian Tian returned from the company's lavish family carnival with a red, itchy rash blooming on her neck just beneath her collarbone, precisely where a cheap metal clasp from a party favor necklace had rested. Shage's heart plummeted. Metal allergy. It was a rare condition, one she'd researched extensively when Tian Tian was an infant. Yanchen, having witnessed Chi-Chi's earlier malice toward Shage and the subsequent accidental fall, had been observing Shage and Tian Tian with a heightened, almost predatory focus. When Assistant Zhou reported Tian Tian's distress and subsequent rush to the hospital after the carnival cake incident, where Xiao Guo had maliciously smeared cake on Tian Tian, Yan Shen felt an unfamiliar surge of protectiveness, mixed with a cold, dawning suspicion. At the hospital, the diagnosis was swift, a severe allergic reaction. "Guardian, any known allergies?" the doctor inquired. Shage hesitated for a fraction of a second too long. "She's allergic to certain metals," she admitted, her voice tight. "Metal allergy." The words echoed in Yanshen's mind, a discordant chime. He knew that particular allergy ran in the Yu family, a peculiar genetic marker passed down through generations. He himself possessed it, a sensitivity so pronounced that even the platinum of his watch bands had to be specially treated. His grandmother was similarly afflicted. "How old is Tian Tian exactly? Her birth date?" Yanshen's voice, when he confronted Shage later, was deceptively calm, but his eyes were like probes, seeking to dissect her every evasion. Shage, flustered by the intensity of his gaze and the implications of his questions, stammered, "She's 4.5, born in June." It was a lie, a desperate attempt to obscure the truth, to push Tiantian's birth date away from that fateful encounter 6 years prior. "The age and birthday don't match," Yanshen noted internally, a sliver of disappointment warring with the persistent, gnawing doubt. "Seems just a coincidence. Tian Tian isn't my child." But the seed of suspicion, once planted, refused to die. The storm, however, was far from over. The kindergarten, Norton International, a prestigious institution Yanshen had personally arranged for Tian Tian's enrollment, became the next battleground. Xiao Guo, emboldened by his mother's machinations and his own burgeoning cruelty, framed Tian Tian for harming the class's pet hamster. The teacher, Ms. Yang, already prejudiced against Tian Tian due to Chi-Chi's subtle slander about Shage's background, readily believed Xiao Guo. "Yin Tian Tian, look at this. Not only is your family the poorest in class, you even abuse animals. This is outrageous." Ms. Yang shrieked, brandishing a small bottle containing the deceased hamster. Tian Tian, though small, possessed a spirit that mirrored her mother's. "This bottle isn't mine," she declared, her voice unwavering. "Mr. Yang, the burden of proof is on you. You should prove this bottle is mine, not me proving it's not mine." Her childish grasp of legal principles was startling. Ms. Yang, incensed, raised her hand to strike. "How dare you talk back? I did nothing wrong. Why are you hitting me?" Tian Tian cried out. At that precise moment, Yu Yanshen, who had decided to make an unscheduled visit to the school, following his grandmother's increasingly insistent inquiries about Shage and that remarkably familiar-looking child, walked in. The scene that greeted him, the cowering child, the furious teacher, the smug principal, ignited a cold fury within him. What's going on here? His voice, though low, commanded immediate silence. The principal, flustered, tried to explain. "Mr. Yu, this Yin Tian Tian. She killed our class pet hamster." Miss Yang, emboldened by what she perceived as Yanshen's silent agreement, he was, after all, Xiao Guo's father, added, "Many parents are uncomfortable with Yin Tian Tian's background. This hillbilly. We believe this is a good opportunity to expel her." Yanshen's gaze swept over them, icy and contemptuous. "Regardless of what happened, a school is supposed to educate," he stated, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. "And this is how you treat your students. I am her guardian." "You're that pauper's father?" Miss Yang sneered, emboldened by ignorance. Honestly, how many men did your mother sleep with to get you this admission letter? Norton Kindergarten isn't for paupers like you. Dismiss teacher Vera Yang and press legal charges, Yanshin commanded the principal, his tone leaving no room for debate. As an educator, your misconduct, insulting students and parents, even assaulting students. This school is controlled by Dragon Rise Group. You dare offend Chairman Yu? The revelation of his true authority sent shockwaves through the room. Ms. Yang and the principal paled, their arrogance evaporating into terror. Later, as Yanchan was leaving the school, having ensured Tiantian's name was cleared, he encountered his grandmother. Madame Yu, a woman of formidable will and keen observation, had also experienced an allergic reaction to a piece of metal jewelry that day. Tian, with surprising composure, had helped her. Yan Chen, his grandmother said, her eyes sharp. That child, Tian, she's allergic to metal, just like us. And her features. She looks more and more like you when you were little. She paused, her gaze intense. If you had a child, why keep it a secret? Yanshen remained silent, but his grandmother's words, coupled with his own escalating suspicions, were like hammer blows against the wall of denial he had carefully constructed. The pieces were falling into place, forming a picture he was both terrified and compelled to see. He instructed Assistant Zhou to discreetly collect hair samples from both Xiao Guo and Tian for a DNA test. The truth, whatever it was, would soon be undeniable. Yin Qiqi felt her carefully constructed world teetering on the brink of collapse. Yanshin's coldness was a constant, gnawing wound. Xiao Guo, far from being a bridge to Yanshin's affections, was a source of increasing friction, his behavior growing more uncontrollable. The faked birthmark on his arm was almost gone. Desperation made her reckless. She had to solidify her position, and quickly. The upcoming business trip to High City with Yanshin seemed like her last, best chance. Mr. Yu, packing your bags for a business trip? The branch in High City has issues? Assistant Zhou informed her, a subtle warning in his tone. Chi, feigning wifely concern, insisted on packing for Yanshen. Hidden amongst his belongings was a small, elegantly packaged bottle of perfume, an aphrodisiac, specially imported, potent enough, she believed, to overcome even Yanshin's legendary self-control. You, Yanshin, you can't escape me, she muttered, a manic glint in her eyes. The High City trip was a disaster for Chi. Yanshin remained distant, his focus entirely on business. Her attempts to create intimate moments were met with polite but firm rebuffs. Frustrated, she decided on a direct assault. That evening, dousing herself in the aphrodisiac perfume, she cornered him in his hotel suite. Yanshin, I know you've been celibate all these years. It must have been so hard for you, she purred, trying to embrace him. With me, you can be yourself. Yanshin recoiled as if struck. The scent was cloying, artificial, and utterly repulsive. Leave, before I lose my temper. Get out now. Am I that repulsive to you? Chi shrieked, her composure cracking. We slept together 6 years ago. I don't even mind now. Why should you care? I said, get out! His voice was a whip crack. Defeated, Chi retreated, but not before the potent fumes of the aphrodisiac had thoroughly permeated the suite. Unbeknownst to either of them, Shage, who had also been sent to High City to finalize the legal aspects of a major deal, was working late in an adjacent conference room. Yanshin, needing a document, found her there. The air in his suite was still thick with the lingering scent of Chi-Chi's failed seduction when Shage, at his request, entered to discuss a contract clause. It smells strong in here, Shage commented, a slight frown creasing her brow. The AC seems to be malfunctioning, Yanshin said, a rare flush on his usually pale cheeks. He felt an unfamiliar heat, a disquieting pull that had nothing to do with the faulty air conditioning. The room was indeed growing warmer, stuffier. They worked, the atmosphere charged with an unspoken tension. Shage, trying to focus on the legal jargon, found her gaze drawn to him. Yanshin, struggling against the cloying perfume and an even more potent, unwelcome arousal, found his mind replaying fragments of that night 6 years ago. A different scent, a different woman. "Why are you exactly the same as 6 years ago?" he murmured, the words escaping him almost involuntarily. Shag froze. "Are you mistaking me for your ex again?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. He looked at her then, truly looked at her, and the world seemed to tilt. The scent of her, subtle and clean beneath the lingering perfume in the room, was the scent from his memories. The way her hair fell, the curve of her neck, the details of what happened next would forever remain a blur, a confluence of the aphrodisiac, the stifling heat, the undeniable magnetic pull that had simmered between them for weeks, and the ghosts of a shared, forgotten past. What was clear was the morning after. "Uncle? Why is Tian Tian here?" Shage's voice was thick with sleep and dawning horror as she found herself in Yanshin's bed, with Tian Tian standing by the doorway, looking confused. "Mommy, is this... Oh no. I made Mommy play hide and seek, and now we're cold." Tian Tian, ever the little diplomat, tried to diffuse the palpable tension. Yanshin, his mind clearing, looked from Shage's mortified face to Tian Tian's innocent one. The DNA results were waiting for him back in the city. But in that moment, looking at the child who called him uncle with such easy affection, who shared his rare metal allergy, and whose mother carried the scent that had haunted his dreams, he didn't need a lab report. He knew. The return to the city was fraught with an unspoken tension. The DNA results lay on Yanshin's desk, a stark confirmation of what his heart, his very cells already screamed. "Tian Tian is my daughter." He summoned Shage to his office, the atmosphere thick enough to cut with a knife. "I'm asking you," he began, his voice low and controlled. "What's with Tian Tian's birthmark?" Shage paled. It's a family trait." "My family trait," he corrected, his gaze unwavering. "She has the U family metal allergy. She looks like me. The timeline matches. So, Tian Tian is my daughter, right?" The dam of Shage's composure finally broke. Tears streamed down her face. "Why didn't you tell me?" Yanshin pressed, a mixture of anger, hurt, and a bewildering sense of elation coursing through him. "Did you seek me out just to take the child and abandon the mother? If I told you the truth, what if you took Tian Tian away from me? She's all I have." "Tian Tian is our child," he said, the possessive pronoun a brand. "How could I take her from you? I will give you proper status." "Status?" Shage laughed, a broken sound. "Then what about your other child's mother? What will people say? Do you want them to see Tian Tian as the child of a mistress? I won't accept this." "You are not a mistress," Yanshin stated firmly. "If not for that accident 6 years ago, we'd never have crossed paths. There was no other woman for me, Shage. I've only ever had you as my woman. Trust me." He paused. "I'll have her come explain." The her in question was Yin Chi. The confrontation that followed was brutal and swift. Yanshin, armed with the truth and the DNA report disproving Xiaoguo's paternity, dismantled Chi-Chi's web of lies with surgical precision. "Who's in your house?" he had asked Shage earlier. "My sister, Yin Chi, and her child. That was her ex-husband, Yang Fan, earlier." Shaj had confessed, the pieces clicking into place for Yanshin. "Yin Chi is your sister?" he confirmed, his voice dangerously soft. "Yes, she impersonated you, claiming to be the woman from 6 years ago." Faced with irrefutable evidence, her ex-husband's testimony, the DNA results, Yanshin's cold fury, Chi crumbled. Her pleas for mercy, her twisted justifications, fell on deaf ears. "We're blood sisters!" Chi shrieked at Shage. "For the sake of our shared mother, ask CEO to spare me. I'm begging you." Shage looked at her sister, the woman who had betrayed her at every turn, who had left her to face a dangerous man alone. "You left me to die earlier. wouldn't open the door. Do you still consider yourself my sister? Why are you the star lawyer while I'm just your assistant? Kichi raged. Why does your man get to be CEO while mine's a repairman? Life's unfair. Was I wrong to act? Self-preservation is human nature. Heaven's wrath strikes all evil, Shage said, her voice cold. I regret not slapping sense into you sooner. That's why you've become so vile. I did all this for Xiao, Chi-Chi cried, a last desperate attempt at justification. As a mother, I want the best for my child. What's wrong with that? You can fool others, but not me, Shage stated, her eyes clear and unforgiving. Are you even a decent mother? Talking about maternal love now is utterly ridiculous. Yanchen's voice cut through Chi-Chi's hysterics. Assistant Joe will document all your crimes and submit them. You will spend your next life behind bars. As guards led a screaming, struggling Chi-Chi away, Yanchen turned back to Shage. The storm had passed, leaving behind a landscape irrevocably altered. The truth, however painful, was finally out. The storm that had raged through the Yu family and Dragon Rise group finally began to subside, but its aftershocks were profound. Yin Chi-Chi, stripped of her pretense and her ill-gotten gains, faced the full force of the law. Assistant Joe, with the cold efficiency Yanchen expected, had meticulously compiled a dossier of her crimes, fraud, attempted grievous bodily harm, related to the aphrodisiac incident which, upon investigation, revealed its potentially dangerous nature, if misused, and defamation. The legal machinery, once set in motion by the Dragon Rise group, was relentless. There would be no escape, no leniency bought with crocodile tears or feigned repentance. Her desperate pleas to Shage, her frantic attempts to leverage their blood-sister connection, had been met with a silence that was more damning than any verbal condemnation. Shage had seen too much, endured too much. The wound of Chi-Chi's betrayal was too deep to be soothed by last-minute theatrics. Heaven's wrath strikes all evil, Shage had told her, and it seemed heaven, or at least the earthly justice system, was listening. Young Fan, her erstwhile husband and accomplice in minor deceptions, also faced repercussions for his threats and attempted extortion, though his fate was considerably lighter than Chi-Chi's, a testament to his lesser role and eventual, albeit reluctant, cooperation. For Yu Yanchen and Yin Shag, the path forward was uncharted territory. The revelation that Tian Tian was his daughter had been like a seismic shift, realigning the very foundations of Yanchen's world. The cold, calculated CEO found himself grappling with emotions he hadn't known he possessed. The anger at Shage's deception, the years lost, the truth concealed, was real, but it was increasingly overshadowed by a burgeoning, protective love for Tian Tian and a complex, undeniable pull towards the woman who had, against all odds, given him this precious gift. Why didn't you tell me? He had asked again, not in anger this time, but with a quiet pain that surprised Shage. They were in the softly lit study of the Yu villa, a space that had once felt oppressive to her, now strangely intimate. Tian Tian was asleep upstairs, blissfully unaware of the adult complexities swirling around her. I was afraid, Shage confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. Afraid you'd take her. Afraid of what people would say. Afraid of this, of you. Yanchen looked at her. Really looked at her, seeing not just the capable lawyer or the mother of his child, but the woman who had navigated 6 years of hardship with a quiet strength he was only now beginning to comprehend. I understand fear, Shage, he said, his voice losing some of its customary frost. But I would never have separated a mother from her child, especially not our child. He paused, the word our still new, yet feeling profoundly right. The night at the Starlight, I was drugged. It was not... I wasn't myself. I know, she said softly, but it doesn't change what happened. No, he agreed, it doesn't. But it also doesn't define what happens next. You are not a mistress, Shage. You were never meant to be. The woman who saved me, the mother of my child. You are the only woman I have ever considered my wife." The days that followed were a delicate dance of discovery. Yanchen, under the unexpectedly astute tutelage of Tian Tian, who had declared him Uncle Daddy and presented him with a stack of CEO romance novels for inspiration, began to dismantle the icy walls around his heart. He learned the rhythm of Tian Tian's bedtime stories, the exact way she liked her noodles, and the surprising depth of her 5-year-old wisdom. He saw Shage not just as a brilliant legal mind, but as a mother whose love for Tian Tian was a fierce, unwavering force. He observed her patience, her quiet humor, the way her eyes softened when she looked at their daughter. Madame Yu, Yanchen's grandmother, played no small part in this thawing. Her delight in Tian Tian was unfeigned. She saw in the child not just a physical resemblance to her grandson, but a kindred spirit. "She has your stubborn streak, Yan Chen," she chuckled, "and Shage's intelligence." A formidable combination. Her acceptance of Shage was immediate and wholehearted, sweeping away any societal concerns with the authority only a matriarch of the Yu family could wield. She showered Tian Tian with affection and gifts, subtly nudging Yanchen and Shage closer, her wisdom born of a long life and a keen understanding of the human heart. The other child, Xiaoguo, was quietly removed from the Yu household along with his mother. Yanchen ensured his basic needs would be met, a final, detached act of responsibility for a deception he had unknowingly been a part of. But his focus was now singular, building a future with Shage and Tian Tian. The custody agreement they had once discussed, a cold, legal document, was now obsolete. The culmination of this new beginning was a press conference, announced with little fanfare but drawing media like moths to a flame. Dragon Rise Group was known for its discretion. A public statement from Yu Yanchen himself was a rare event. The room was packed, cameras flashing, reporters murmuring in anticipation. Yanchen stood at the podium, Shage by his side, holding Tian Tian's hand. He looked every inch the powerful CEO, but today there was a warmth in his eyes that had never been seen before. "Thank you for coming," he began, his voice clear and steady, resonating through the hushed room. "For 6 years, there has been speculation regarding my personal life. Today, I wish to end that speculation." He paused, his gaze finding Shage's, a silent message passing between them. "This is Yin Shage," he declared, his arm moving to gently encircle her waist. "The woman who saved my life 6 years ago, a brilliant lawyer, and the mother of my child." He then looked down at Tian Tian, his expression softening entirely. "And this," he said, his voice filled with an undeniable pride, "is Yu Tian Tian, my daughter, and the designated successor to the Dragon Rise Group." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Flashbulbs erupted. "My purpose for this press conference today," Yanchen continued, his voice firm, silencing the rising clamor, "is to tell the world that in this lifetime, I, Yu Yanchen, will marry only Yin Shage. She is, and always will be, the First Lady of Dragon Rise Group." He looked at Shage, and she met his gaze, her eyes shining. The misunderstandings had been vast, the pain deep, the journey fraught with trucktra. But standing there, with Tian Tian beaming between them, she knew this was not just a declaration to the world, but a promise to her. It was a new beginning, built not on a fleeting encounter or a contractual obligation, but on a truth finally acknowledged, and a love that had, against all odds, found its way. Tian Tian, ever pragmatic, tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy, now that you've said it, can we get more of those special noodles?" Yanchen threw back his head and laughed, a sound so rare and joyful it stunned the entire room into a momentary, incredulous silence. Shage joined in, her laughter light and free. The CEO, the Cinderella, and their little princess. Their story was just beginning.